presentation by the President of the Fiji Council of Churches and the head of the Catholic Church in Fiji, Archbishop Peter Chong. Thank you.
Back in the, I think, late 70s and the early 80s, there was a very popular reggae band that grew out of Rewanga called the Root Strata. And I have a cousin that's a good friend of that band, the Root Strata, and so during those times, having bands play around the place was quite frequent. And so on this occasion, we were going to watch the Root Strata play at a particular venue. So my cousin said, hey, why don't you have a bit of marijuana? So that when you become a priest, you know what's marijuana like. I did not take the marijuana at that time, and still today I have not taken a sniff of marijuana. In 1997, the late Pope John Paul II brought together experts and specialists and those in charge of rehab centers and international organizations that were interested in drugs from 45 countries all over the world. A total of 90 people gathered in the Vatican under the inspiration of the late Pope John Paul II to discuss drugs as a real problem. This is way back in 1997, so it's been around for a long time. And the fruit of that conference was the publication of this book. I just got this book about 2-3 weeks ago when the drug, concern became a big thing here in Fiji. And I wanted to get a hold of what the Catholic Church is teaching, or whether there are some resources. I had a hard time trying to track this book, and eventually found a place where I can buy it. It cost 11 pounds in Rome. By the time this book got to my desk, it's about $200+ Fiji, with all the tax and the shipping and all that. But it's worth, I told myself, it's okay. It's worth getting it over. So today I'd just like to speak from some of the very practical things that this book, it's called the Pastoral Handbook, Church, Drugs, and Drug Addiction. A very special call here is the call to build a culture of life, where education and love form the shield that will protect us from the shadows of this evil in our world today. So the book talks about 3 pillars of restoration. The first is prevention, and the second is therapeutic, and the third is social, the joy of reconnecting. So the prevention, some of the speakers have already spoken about that. So the prevention, the book talks about that we are called to do more than just avoid the danger. And this is, I think, where our narcotic bill can push the language a little bit. We're just about harm reduction, supply reduction. What's the other reduction? Demand reduction. So it's more than just reduction. Reduction, that means you only reduce. Some leftovers are there. So our language has to be more than just reducing. It's like a PVC pipe. You go and buy one reducer or enlarger. So we have to move the language just counter. There's got to be something else. So the something more else is by fostering loving family relationships, providing a spiritual and moral compass. This is the thing that's lacking today. We are both husband and wife working as heavy traffic, and then the social media, parents are there but not there, and the children don't have any moral compass. We give our children the quality of life they deserve. When adults lead with coherence and high standards, they transmit the moral values and faith in God that allow a child's soul to truly flourish. Now, of the three pillars, this is the most important, the prevention. And the other two is therapeutic. That one is some people have already talked about. Rehab, that's a big gap in Fiji. And the other one is social reconnection. How we bring back into society someone who's lost his soul, lost his heart, no purpose. The next thing is going to throw in the towel and lose his life. So I'd like to speak on this most important pillar, which is prevention, the heart of prevention. So the most vital work we can do is to tend to the roots by promoting health, moral balance, and a genuine taste of life. You know, so the word there is genuine. Eh? So drugs is not a genuine taste. It's a false taste. It's a lie. Whatever so there is genuine taste for life, and this is what we need to promote. So our language is not to be just only counter. We've got to build up the positive taste of life, which is, in the inner longing of the human being. Eh? We empower young people to look toward the future with eyes full of light. So build on the positiveness that God made us into His image. We are made for love. Eh? So for this to happen, there's a call to action. And that is to empower the soul. So the book invites us to take specific life-giving actions to strengthen the interior life of every person. So it's built on, the church looks at the positiveness that's in the human being, made in the goodness and the likeness of God, and to bring that to flourish. Eh? So the book starts from there, it begins with the anthropological and spiritual on the human person. Very different from the language that we're hearing today. Counter, harm reduction. But from the church point of view, you build on the spirituality of the person, on the humanness of the person. So there are a few things practical things that we can do. One, to deal with the root causes of drugs, we have to address the human hunger for peace, for joy. But unfortunately, we are not God. God is infinite. God has everything. We are finite. We are always falling short of our ideals. As St. Paul says in the Bible, the good that I want to do, I don't do. And the very bad things that I should avoid, I keep on doing this. My life is like a prison. Hinduism says our life is like a prison. We have to escape from this life and reincarnate in something else. But the basic things, we don't have it all as human beings. All of us, whether you believe in God or not believe in God, Christian, Hindu, we are all human beings. We fall short. And because of this shortness, there is what they call existential anxiety. That means anxiety, guilt is something that's part of the humanness. Because, the good I want to do. For Catholics, I go to confession today, I go and confess my sin, but I go back and probably do the same thing again. I see some people laughing because my story is connecting with you. So, how to address the drug problem has to address this human person. So, what are some very simple things? Nurture the ability to find legitimate pleasure in personal growth. So, there are things that we can do that bring good pleasure. Drugs is false pleasure, short term. Build foundation of self-trust, allowing each person to own their choices and consequences. Fortify the inner spirit, and that goes on. Now, for this to happen, we need good educators. So this is where school comes in. School is an important. Most of our young people, as my friend here are the victims of this. So this sacred work requires a special kind of formation for parents, for teachers, workers in the church, even pastors like myself. We need to be formed right so that we can bring about this spiritual and ethical growth to form the whole person. So schools are important. Churches should be places where married couples learn how to love. Families are trained in healthy family relationships. Churches will be committed to holistic youth ministry. And so, and this requires education, especially for our schools now. Just before I end, there is a real need that we need to move the education system from a purely academic, where maths, English are taught, but where other values are taught, where love can be experienced, where deeper reflection, making good choices are taught in the school. So in terms of moving this prevention, an important role here is education, our teachers, how our teachers are formed, and the kind of education that happens in our schools. Thank you very much.